How's it going, everyone? Mafara here. Welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Today, I've been fortunate to be joined by Tom Salvini. I hope I pronounced his surname right. It is a bit tricky for me. But yes, so Tom is here to share his journey overcoming and mitigating type 2 diabetes through some lifestyle changes that he's incorporated. I don't want to say that he prescribes any dietary prescriptions or anything like that. I think he can explain to himself how he's cultivated his way of life just towards healthy living. So, Tom, tell us about yourself.
Okay, so basically about 4 years ago, my loving wife gently nagged me, and she persuaded me to go to the doctor. I was overweight, and the doctor told me that I was overweight, and I knew it, and I just actually ignored him. But it wasn't until a few weeks later when I was given a text message, and it told me I had to go for this MRI scan. And at that point, that's when something flipped in my brain, and it made me realize that it wasn't superficial, the extra weight I had on it. It was going to have some effect on my health, and that's really when I made a change. And from that point forward, I've kind of changed my mindset a bit. And what I did, I started basically eating when I was hungry. And about 8 months later, I stood back and thought, I'm the world's worst dieter. I hate dieting. And yet I've managed to lose, quite a bit of weight, and it's still working. And it was that point I thought, there's something in this. I need to kind of look into it more and start writing it down. And I've been on a kind of journey trying to unpick what I did the past 4 years. And so it's exactly as you talk about. It's not a diet. It's more about learning to be more in tune with your body. I think one of the big problems with modern life, and it is modern life, it's not that we're broken. It's not that there's something biologically wrong with us. It's more that the external factors that push on us every day are out of kilter. They're too extreme. Our food is too extreme. Our sitting down is too sedentary. Our scrolling is too, actually our consumption of information is the same as our eating. We're just, we're overeating. And it's just really hard. It's we were talking about it before. It's a daily struggle, and the problem is that if you're, the place I was at, I thought I was happy, but I wasn't really happy. There was stuff that I'd wake up in the day, and I wouldn't be waking up happy and ready to take on the challenges. I'd be dreading them, and it's a bit like you're in the sea and you've got these waves that are coming and crashing over you. Whereas now I feel, a lot more like I'm kind of surfing on top of the waves. So it's still hard. It's still a challenge. You still fall in and get a wave crash on top of you, but it's more something that you're going out there and you're a bit more in control of.
And so I was as you mentioned that the whole nature of our lifestyle is very digital. You obviously worked in the data industry from what I read, and would you say that was a contributing factor to the dietary issues, or maybe it was a separate thing on its own and that was a separate challenge on its own, that it was more something else? Or was there a link between, your working lifestyle? I'm not too sure what you work as currently, but, was there a link between the two?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't think the job, I'm still in data analysis, kind of software, things like that. I don't think the job caused me to eat badly. I think that was more driven by my own love of food. But I think the issue with the sedentary lifestyle is, and this is actually the longer part of the journey, because although I'm 4 years in, I think I'm probably still 5 years from being where I need to be. I think if someone like me 4 years ago, they're probably a decade away from being their best selves. And when I say their best selves, I mean completely transformed in terms of mentally, what they achieve in the day and how they would just wake up really happy, ready to smash the world. And I think the physical aspect, the sitting down, the really bad thing it does, it turns off lots of your muscles and it creates these imbalances. And it's not just a physical strength imbalance, it actually turns off your brain activating those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I, as a kid in cross country, I would come last, like literally last in school, and I couldn't run. And now I've started running, and I really love running. I think it's an amazing activity, but it's taken me years to be able to get to the point where I can run, because it's not just a fitness thing. It's like you have to learn to return on muscles, and it's something that takes a long time. So I think actually the physical aspect from the sedentary lifestyle can take longer than, for example, reversing type 2 diabetes, if you catch it early enough. And that's one of the best things about type 2 diabetes. It is a lifestyle illness, and for a lot of people, when they catch it early, you really can make a difference. And even if you don't catch it early, you can make the best of what you have, which I think is the key.
And so you actually touched on something interesting, because you said that like two components to making those changes. There's a physical aspect of it, putting your body through the physical pain and stress, which is difficult. I think that's the one part which people somewhat get over. But then there's the mental aspect. There's the psychological suffering that you go through, and losing 25 kgs is not easy. I have a fast metabolism, so unlike my opposite was gaining weight. For me it's always been a difficult thing, having to eat more and everything. And so I'm just wondering, what was the process like for you mentally? What did you have to restructure in your mind? What did you have to tell yourself? And what did you have to force yourself to do, I guess in a weird way, to get things going?
Yeah, that's a really good way to frame it, because actually I didn't do that. And I think this is the big issue, I think, with the way we think of weight loss, in that the first thing people do when they get to a point where they're mentally strong enough to lose weight, because when it happened to me, the minute before that text, I wasn't strong enough to lose weight, and I'm still not really strong enough to go on a strict diet. If you talk about a calorie controlled, like restrictive diet, I don't think I could ever do that. But what I did right at the start was I created a system, and it was accidental, that basically rewarded me with food when I did the right thing. So if you wait until you're hungry to eat, and as soon as you feel hungry, you eat a slightly smaller portion, what you're actually doing is you're reducing the chance of fat storage in the day, and you're increasing the chance of fat burn at night. So it's a really simple strategy, but the beautiful thing about it is, which is completely opposite to every other diet, is that because it's effectively counting calories, but using your body to count calories. And so you don't have to do any mental arithmetic, you don't have to do any restrictions so much. It's more about that being waiting to eat. But as soon as you've succeeded in waiting till you're hungry, you get to eat. So you get to do the thing you love when you succeed. And that's the thing that is completely different to a normal diet. A normal diet praises you when you avoid doing what you love. If you love eating and you go on a diet, then you have to avoid it. You have to tell yourself that is wrong about me. And that's the real psychological problem. And there's lots of people who are thin, who have bad diets. And yes, there is a genetic element, there's a lifestyle element, there's a height element, there's what type of muscles you have. But at the end of the day, you can't cheat the laws of kind of calories in, calories out. It's a lot more complicated than that, but you can't cheat it. And effectively, it's about it's just about finding the easiest way to do it. And if you can turn it into a positive activity, that's what really makes the difference. So it's about turning it into something that's almost fun and creates a cycle, a positive cycle that you want to reinforce.
And I was going to mention or ask, when you make the changes, obviously, like you said, you love eating, and you can somehow use that to actually get to your destination. But there's some components that, like almost are non-negotiable, if you get what I mean. Some things like just have to go, and some things have to stay. like for me personally, like we just mentioned earlier on in the earlier call, we just mentioned pizza. I love eating pizza. But processed carbs, literally every time. And like you said, you have to assess what happens when you do something and how it happens when you don't. Every time, every time, I kid you not, when I consume processed carbs, just the energy crash and the body just literally just goes down, 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 and under. Even though I love pizza, at some point you actually realize like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this as much anymore. I'm actually going to eventually have to just let it go completely, like transitioning when you're letting go of something. I was going to ask, have you had to forego any of those foodstuffs that you really, really enjoyed prior? More specifically, I've noticed it's really processed carbs and seed oils. Those are the two main ones, which, even regardless if you're following a diet, that's like the main no-no that everyone says. You just have to let those go. So I'm wondering, how has that process been? Or do you also still maybe struggle with it? Or I don't know. I don't know if I phrased that question right.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I don't think I've restricted any food, but I tend to try and be much healthier in the week and then allow myself to be a bit more relaxed at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But you used the word transition, and actually that is the key to everything. It's understanding that wherever you're starting from, you need to make tiny steps that are positive and make you feel good. And once you've done a few of those, you just keep doing it and you get better and better and better. And you might keep falling over, you might keep failing, but then you have to keep learning to get back up again. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I look at my food now and before, now 4 years in, I'm actually starting to do intermittent fasting.
Oh, nice.
So
that's good.
Out of all of the systems, and there's a number of elements to that, because so I think one of the things we don't talk about enough is the fact that actually diets are tactics. What I mean by that is, imagine it's are you in the middle of, are you coming into summer now? Are you in South Africa?
Yes. We're fortunately coming into summer. Yeah, winter's just kind of.
So you've just been through winter, but I don't know what your winter's like. But in the UK, for example, I cycled to work yesterday, and it's cold, and my gloves aren't good enough. So I'm going to have to put proper hat and gloves on every single day over winter. Mm-hmm. That's a tactic. It's a tactic you use to solve a specific problem. But then summer comes around. Do you still use a hat and gloves? Of course not, because it's like that was useful in winter, but it's not useful in summer. Mm-hmm. And the problem with the diet is what we're doing is we're signing up to a tactic. So for example, something like keto is eat meat, eat fat, and avoid carbs. It's it's terrible to try and do it every single day. If you're a normal person that goes to normal shops and you've got kids, and it's impossible to keep up. Again, something like a plant-based diet, it's a superb way to eat filling that doesn't have tons of calories, but doing it all day long is really hard. And even Weight Watchers is basically the way I like to think of it is it's pre-portioned food. So it's like I actually use that tactic in that I have a pot of porridge when I have a breakfast, and I just have a cup. So I just put the cup in and pull it out. So that's the kind of tactic of Weight Watchers. It's making it quick and easy to do something, and that's the thing that we need to understand is we need a strategy for life, and then we need to pick the right tactic for the right moment. And in terms of what I do now compared to what I used to do, initially all I did was I did try and reduce some of the carbs. I did try and pick the healthier foods a little bit, but I just waited till I was hungry to eat. That was literally all I did. Wow. Now 3-4 years in, it's much harder. It's much harder. The reality is that in modern life, to be able to control your weight, you have to wake up every morning and have a fight. It's about you have to be mentally, and it's the difference between fight or flight. You know, as I was 4 years ago, if someone had said, right, this morning you're not going to have any food until the evening, I'd have just said no way. I'd have walked away. Whereas, for example, I mentioned I've started intermittent fasting, so I've actually managed a couple of times just eating one meal a day, which, up until a few months ago, I had never missed a meal in my life, like never. It's just something that had never happened, but the only reason I'm able to do it now is because I can tap into it, and then when I don't feel like it, I can come back to kind of normal. And it's just that ability to have almost a toolbox of options. That's the thing that really made a difference, because when you pick a specific diet, which is a single tactic, it takes action and it takes you in just that direction. It's really flexible. And I think that's why it kind of bangs so much against our lives, because it's so unnatural. Our lives are changing. The boiler breaks, the car breaks down, you suddenly have a new job, this, that, and the other. And that's why a tactic is not good, because it doesn't fit into life. It's not a strategy.
No, you mentioned a lot of interesting things there, and that brings me to the next kind of question, because it's not really what you're talking about now. It's not necessarily just about diet now. It's actually kind of a human thing, right? And moving into coaching people, I guess you could say that I was going to ask, is this challenge that you put yourself in, like the realizations you had about yourself through this process, is that what has kind of prompted you into coaching now? Because I think, when you challenge yourself, basically what happens is you realize that the questions you ask yourself, a lot of people also ask themselves, they just don't have someone to prompt them to kind of actualize those questions, if that makes sense. So was this dietary change, or was this something that's just been a part of you? You've always been interested in helping cultivate, change in others. I know it's a kind of a mixed match question, but again, I was wondering.
No, I think it's I've been on has uncovered help people who are in a similar position to me. And I feel like you said, some of the steps that I've been on have been useful. And actually, the interesting part is, so what happened was I lost some weight. The first year was about weight loss. The second year was about physical exercise. And you touched on this a little bit, and it's interesting because physical exercise creates grit. It creates real mental resilience. And it's something that different ways, but physical exercise is a very good example. And one thing I started doing that I was actually against when I was younger was boxing. So I've started boxing training, and I don't do kind of really strong sparring, but I do some sparring, and it's amazing the difference between that fight or flight. The boxing training in you a resilience, an ability to be calmer in stressful situations, an ability to say, I'm not going to have my lunch. Yes, I can feel my body's telling me to have lunch, but I know I'm fine. And it's that, way thinking, right, come and give me something to fight life, because I'm gonna, I'm in a good, I'm gonna get in the ring, as it were. And it's not about aggression, it's about that mental resilience. So that was really built in year kind of 2, 3, and then it was the third year that I started, because I was waking up stronger every day. That's when I started to really tackle the problems that were annoying me. Relationships, work, boundaries, being able to say in a restaurant, I don't like this food, and sending it back without feeling, that without doing it aggressively, like, you were saying something wrong. And it's allowed me to be myself, more myself. And I think that's one of the most important points, that, traditionally what people feel is they feel like they're having to And actually, if you can work out how to balance your life so you're being more you and you can be healthier, that's it, you've won. That is because each person has their skills, they have their abilities. And if you can do, if you can be what you are meant to be in life, your body just, it works, it flows.
And wow, that was really, really well said. And it's funny that you used your physical regimen and you've translated it into handling all the other dimensions of your life that perhaps you just didn't want to, or you didn't have that necessary resolve to attend to. It's amazing how these small changes we make, they literally do amount to a bigger impact in our lives later on. And you mentioned something in your bio that I found quite inspiring, is a lot of coaches don't like to, you have to promote and market yourself as someone who's always winning and succeeding. But you mentioned that the first thing you said is you failed a lot. And there's such a level of sincerity to that. And I was going to ask that, how difficult has, the process of failure and setbacks, how has it been? How has that, I guess, brought you to the point you are today? How difficult has it been? And also how beneficial has it been, both sides, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, I think that I quite like the word failure, and I think we've got a problem in society with people who are upset about words, and they feel that words are affecting them. So even things like if I was called fat, or those words, the way I like to look at it is that they're hot air. They don't mean anything, but they're words that your head will tell you. So your head will tell it you yourself. And I think that, the word failure, I tell myself off all the time, and you've messed up, you've done that wrong. And that's good, because it's helping to tweak you. The way to think of it is more like a team. I like to think in my head, I've got there's almost like, or in my body, there's kind of three characters. There's my personality, which is me, which is a bit like a little puppy dog, just like, let's go and have a pizza, let's go and see some mates and stuff. And then you have this voice, this nagging voice inside you, and that's the voice of Mother Nature for me. And she's the one who says, you failed. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Oh, try, you need to do more maths. You need to do more exercise. And then there's there's your body's needs, and that's the kind of your metabolic needs is in terms of consuming. And so this idea of failure is, when you're successful, you don't suddenly stop failing. Your head doesn't suddenly tell you, you're amazing, well done, love yourself, wake up and love yourself. It doesn't tell you that. It tells you exactly the same as you said before. But the difference is, if you have a strategy, you can ignore it if you know you're doing the right. And secondly, you're mentally tougher, so it doesn't actually affect you as much, because you know that, if you're having a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, then you wake up and then you'll flip back and you'll be happy again, and then your team, because it does work as a team. Your metabolism, your kind of that nagging voice, and your playfulness, if they work together, they're an amazing team. And that's the transformation you can create. You can create a life where things work, they flow. And I think that's the beautiful thing about having an honest conversation. The word failure is honest, and it's true, and it's a reflection of, maybe you have done something not quite right. Maybe you couldn't do it right, but your head still tells you a failure. So it might not be fair. And remember, this is, when I first started, the voices in my head went away quickly because I was losing weight. So what actually happens initially is, because you're so happy that you're able to lose weight almost effortlessly, you feel a bit like a superhero, because for years you've struggled, and then suddenly you're losing weight, and it's like, how did that happen? That's amazing. And that's what builds your a bit more positivity in your brain. But then once you get mentally stronger and then you start challenging yourself again, you keep challenging yourself, then you're going to do harder and harder things. And of course you're going to fail. You know, it's like climbing up a mountain. At the start, there's nice pathways through the beautiful forest. Then you get a bit higher, it's a bit steeper. When you get on the ice, you're going to fall off. It's awful. Bits of ice fall off on top of you. You know, it's you know, maybe it takes you a day to make a few meters progress, whereas before you did 10 miles and you know you got all the way up the foothills. And so and it's that, like, it's about having the bigger vision and realizing that what you're doing is counting towards a bigger picture.
Well said. Well said. And you actually just answered the question I was going to ask. What helps you stay consistent? Or exactly, it was that. What helps you stay consistent? And you mentioned that. And so I was going to ask, when you work with others, because everyone's different, everyone's mind is different, everyone's challenges in life are different, everyone's body processes food differently, you know, based on genetics and everything like that. If you're to work, you know, when you work with other people or when you speak with other people, what type of process do you prescribe to them? What would you recommend, especially if someone's tuning in and they may not be able to do what you do? Some people just maybe not, they can't box, they don't want to go into the ring, and maybe some people really are, you know, really mind oriented. So a diet, they can't let that go and they have to follow it. So what process would you prescribe universally?
I think that's a really good point, because like you say, everyone is completely different, and that's why no system that you subscribe to really works, because it's each, I believe fundamentally that each person has to discover their own route. And so the key for me was that first step, which is effectively learning to pick yourself up again. So the way the system works initially is that you have the 3 rules, which is, the first rule is, if you're not hungry, don't eat. So that's the first rule. The second rule is, when you do eat, try and eat a slightly smaller portion than you ate before, and focus on less of the refined carbs. You know, just halve your refined carbs portion and stick a few more veg on. That kind of level, right? That's the first 2 rules. And then the third rule is, if you can't do rules 1 and 2, enjoy your food. And you know, as soon as you got an ounce of willpower back, get back on rule 1 and 2. So that's it. It's literally that simple. I've spoken to people on the phone, and I had one lady who, she actually ghosted me for six weeks afterwards. I kept asking, how are you doing? Do you want any help? And then she sent me an email and said, I've lost 7 pounds. It's brilliant. And it's just that one change helps to turn someone from a negative mindset into a positive mindset. And that is when, so if you know, if someone said to me, you know, an hour before I got the text message, would you like to go on a 10-year journey to find your best self? No way. There is absolutely no way I'm doing that. No, who on earth would do that? Give me a 2-week transformation or 3-week transformation. So the difference is that I think my system's more about, in 3 weeks you glimpse a new you. So you actually get almost a fast forward and feel happier and healthier. And it's that once you start walking on that path, then you just kind of keep going and accidentally end up, you know, starting to get mentally stronger, physically stronger. And it's about the whole system is based around resets. So these resets are kind of smart choices that help you to make better decisions. And it's about each person just picking the resets, the tactics that work for them. So if you, for example, I love meat. So in the evening, I tend to eat a keto meal. I tend to eat some meat and then a salad. You know, that's what we tend to do. We hardly have, you know, rice and pasta. I love pasta so much. Pasta with, you know, creamy pasta, you know, with sauce, and I love it. But we tend to not have it that much. And when you're kind of, you know, middle-aged and your body needs so many less calories when you've got a sedentary lifestyle, that's something that has to flex a bit. And so, yeah, it's about each person finding their regrounding is the reality. When you wait until you're hungry to eat, you're regrounding in reality. Your body's telling you when you need energy, and that process of relearning, it just helps you to tap into reality, because that's what's happened. We've almost like gone off on a tangent off reality, and we're eating by the clock every single meal when we don't need as many calories, and that's what's putting on weight. So it's definitely about each person finding their groove.
And I realized we're on 9 minutes left, unfortunately, because the interview is going to run out of time. But I was going to ask, how can people contact you? And do you work with people outside of the UK as well? Obviously, digitally, maybe via Zoom call and everything like that. And obviously, the last question after that. But actually, you can answer the first two, and then I'll leave the last question for last.
Okay, so the system's called Balanced. BALANC 3D. So it's like Balanced 3D, and basically, just search it up and drop me a connect or have a look on the website. We're just about to launch a free 3-week course, which is an email course, which just will help you just to get going. And I'm looking for some people who want to. I'm really interested in getting some case studies. So if anyone is interested, then just find me on social media and drop me a connection, and we'll have a chat. It'd be great.
And lastly, I'll actually add those links in the description so that people can actually get access to it. And how would you recommend people develop the proper mindset to overcome the adversity and challenges that they'll face once they begin whatever dietary changes they want to? And not only just the dietary changes, because what you've spoken about is mainly life changes. Ultimately, it's a bigger thing. I think diet is the fundamental core. What you eat, you are what you eat, and you are how your relationship with food is a very, very strong component of your well-being. But how do you cultivate that joyful mindset? Because when I hear you speak, you have such a I don't want to say it's the right mindset, but it's a very, very special mindset, just to view things with a bit more playfulness rather than seriousness, and that actually helps you. So I don't know, how would you recommend people develop their mindset?
Well, the way to do it is to do things that you enjoy. So and that's why the first step is so simple. And it's actually based on rewarding you with food. So if food is what you love in life, which I still do, that's never going to go away. And the thing I'd say is, make sure you connect with people who have the same personality as you. And it's the people who are a bit more fun. They enjoy bringing people together. They're caring people tend to be. And it's about, if that's you, you're always going to have these ups and downs emotionally. You're always going to kind of keep failing, as it were. But if you can have a system that makes you happy, then you will go back to it. And that is the key. You're definitely right. It's about happiness.
No, we're just short on time now, Tom, but I just really wanted to say thank you. Thank you for coming onto the podcast and sharing your amazing story, and really sharing your amazing mindset and philosophy towards just successfully. I mean, obviously success really ultimately means well understood failures, and a method and a certain type of mindset that has the ability to overcome failure and to create a way forward, to create a path forward. So I'll definitely put your link in the bio in the description, and it'll be great if those of you that do tune into the podcast, I recommend that you do contact Tom. Again, a personality speaks for itself, and I'm wishing you all the best moving forward with your program. I think in the world that we are in today, we need what you're talking about. We need that. We need that strength. We need it more than anything. Disciplined relationship with food is the number one thing that I think will change how society functions. Because once people get that right, they'll just be better people in general, and the way they interact with their community and everything will be much better. So Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it, and it'll actually be great to have you on. I've had a person who just follows a plant-based diet. It'd be interesting to see if you guys could be on the same same
Yeah, I'd love
podcast
to.
and have a conversation. It'll be interesting. So it'll be great to have you on again. Thank you so much, man, and take care.
Thank you so much. Cheers.